Hello, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into one of the very first sorting algorithms that most programmers ever learn, the bubble sort. It's an absolute classic, but as you're about to see, it's got a bit of a reputation.
This quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. Bubble sort is super well known. It's the go-to for beginners, but it's also infamous. That's a pretty strong word for a sorting algorithm, right? So what's the deal? Why the bad rap? Let's dig in.
All right, so first up, we're going straight to the heart of what bubble sort is. We're going to see what makes it so easy to understand, so popular, but we're also going to start pulling back the curtain on that catch, the big reason behind its infamous reputation.
The name itself is actually a huge clue. Just picture it. You've got a bunch of numbers in a list, and they're like bubbles in a tank of water. What do the biggest bubbles do? They float right to the top, right? Well, that's the whole idea here. Bubble sort is all about moving the largest values up to their final sorted position at the end of the list, one bubble at a time.
Okay, so how do these bubbles actually rise? Let's get into the nitty-gritty and break down the core mechanics of how this thing actually compares and swaps its way to a perfectly sorted list.
So here's the formal definition, but honestly, it all boils down to two really simple actions that just get repeated over and over and over again. It looks at two items right next to each other, compares them, and if the one on the left is bigger, it just swaps them. That's it. That's the whole move. It just keeps doing that all the way down the line.
And this slide really lays out the whole game plan. You start at the very beginning, comparing pairs one by one. You swap when you need to, and you just keep moving down the list. After you've made that first complete trip, we call that a pass. The single largest number will have bubbled all the way to its correct spot at the very end. Then you just do it all over again for the rest of the numbers.
All right, theory is great and all, but seeing it in action, that's where it really clicks. So let's do a quick dry run with a simple list of numbers and actually watch these bubbles rise to the top. Okay, here's our starting lineup. 7, 2, 9, 6, 4. So first pass, we compare 7 and 2. Is 7 greater? Yep, so we swap them. Now we compare 7 and 9. Nope, 7 is smaller, so no swap. On to the next pair, 9 and 6. 9 is definitely bigger, so swap. And finally 9 and 4. Swap again, and just like that, after one complete pass, our biggest number, 9, has bubbled all the way to the end. It's done, its journey is over.
Now, on to the second pass. And the cool part is, we can totally ignore that 9. Now we know it's in the right place. So we start over. 2 and 7? No swap. 7 and 6? Yes, swap. 7 and 4? Swap again. And look at that. The second largest number, 7, has now found its final spot right next to the 9. See? The list is already looking more organized.
Let's keep this going. Pass number 3. We look at 2 and 6. All good, no swap. Then 6 and 4. Yep, those need to swap. And that's it for this pass. The number 6 is now locked in. Each time we do this, the pass gets a little shorter, a little simpler, as more and more numbers find their final home.
And boom, our array is sorted. 2, 4, 6, 7, 9. Now, technically, the algorithm would do one more pass just to be sure, but since it wouldn't find anything to swap, it would know its job is done. We've gone from total chaos to perfect order, just one simple swap at a time.
Now, for those of you who are curious about what this looks like as code, here's a little taste in pseudocode. Don't worry about the exact syntax. The key thing to notice here is the two nested loops. You've got one loop running inside of another. The outer loop is what controls the passes, making sure we go over the list enough times. And that inner loop, that's the one doing all the heavy lifting, walking down the list and making those swaps. This two-loop structure is really the engine of bubble sort. And as we'll see, it's also the source of its biggest problem.
Okay. So we've seen it, it's simple, it's logical, and it absolutely works. But that just brings us right back to our original question. If it's so straightforward, why on earth does it get labeled as infamous? Let's get to the verdict. And this slide right here, it sums up the whole story perfectly. On one side, you've got its amazing simplicity. It's so easy to understand, super easy to code up, which is exactly why it's a favorite for teaching computer science. But on the flip side, you have its speed, or more accurately, its complete lack of speed. Remember those two nested loops? They mean that for any list that isn't tiny, the number of comparisons just explodes. It becomes painfully, brutally slow, which makes it totally impractical for almost any real-world use.
So, to wrap this all up, what are the big things you should walk away with? Well, bubble sort is all about that simple compare and swap of items right next to each other. This is what causes those largest values to bubble up to the end on each pass. Its greatest strength?
It's incredibly simple to get your head around, but that simplicity comes at a huge cost. It's just really, really inefficient for large amounts of data. It's a fantastic learning tool, but it's just not a performance tool.
And you know, that really brings us to a much bigger idea. Bubble sort is the perfect poster child for a fundamental trade-off in all of computing: simplicity versus performance. Here, we have the easiest possible solution, but it also happens to be one of the slowest. And it really makes you ask the question, what are we willing to give up to get more speed? It's a question programmers and engineers have to answer every single day. Thanks so much for watching.